For decades, we've been told that the battle against nicotine addiction is a personal fight, just a test of your willpower. But what if that's completely the wrong way to think about it? Today, we're diving into Achieve Life Sciences, a company that's trying to flip that script, developing a real medical solution for one of our biggest public health crises. Okay, to really get a grip on what's at stake here, let's start with a number. In the United States alone, there are still about 25 million adult smokers. That's a massive number of people still facing the dangers of cigarettes every single day. And hey, it's not just about traditional smoking anymore, right? Add to that almost 18 million adults who use e-cigarettes or vape. You add those two together, and you're looking at a massive public health challenge touching more than 40 million people. And the fallout? It's not just about health, it's about money. A lot of money. Smoking costs the US over $600 billion every single year between healthcare bills and lost productivity. So yeah, this isn't some tiny issue. It's absolutely colossal. So for so long, what have we told people who want to quit? Just have more willpower, right? But as we're about to see, that whole idea completely misses the point. It ignores the real, deep-seated medical science of nicotine addiction and just how little innovation there's been in treating it. I mean, think about this for a second. In the last 20 years, we've had these incredible breakthroughs in medicine for all sorts of things. But for quitting smoking, the playbook has barely changed. People are still stuck struggling with the same old options. And the price we pay for standing still, it's measured in human lives. Smoking is still the #1 cause of preventable death in the US. We're talking 500,000 people every single year. And it's tied to this brutal lineup of diseases that hits pretty much every part of the body. Okay, so after all that stagnation, all that waiting, something new is finally on the horizon. Something that could totally change the game. And here it is. It's called cytisinicline. It's this plant-based compound that Achieve Life Sciences is developing, and here's how it works. It goes to work on the nicotine receptors in your brain. The goal is to take the edge off those awful withdrawal symptoms and block that reward feeling, that dopamine rush you get from smoking. And look, this isn't some far-off pipe dream. The company actually has what's called a PDUFA date with the FDA. Think of it as the agency's deadline to make a decision. And that date is set, June 20, 2026. That's a huge milestone that shifts the company's focus from, does this work, to how do we get this to people? So what makes this different? Well, for one, the clinical data shows it actually works, even for people who've tried everything else and failed. It also has a really strong safety profile. And it seems to really help patients who are already dealing with serious conditions like COPD, folks who desperately need a way to quit. Now, to really wrap your head around how big of a deal this could be, let's look at a totally different area of medicine that just had its own revolution: obesity. It's actually a really powerful parallel for the kind of mental shift Achieve is hoping to kickstart. The company's CEO, Rick Stewart, made this exact point. He talked about how those GLP-1 drugs for weight loss completely changed the conversation. Suddenly, society started to see obesity as a medical condition, not a personal failing. The thinking at Achieve is, hey, nicotine addiction deserves that exact same evolution. Let's break that down. The old way of thinking, the willpower way, basically frames this as a character flaw. The new view, the one backed by science, says, no, wait a minute, this is a neurobiological disorder. Nicotine literally gets in there and rewires your brain's reward system. And if it's a medical condition, well, it needs a medical solution. Simple as that. So, with that FDA date getting closer, Achieve isn't just sitting around. They're actively building out a really modern, smart plan to get this treatment out to the people who need it. Okay, so one of the first things you have to nail for a drug launch is, can you actually make this stuff? The FDA had pointed out some issues at their international manufacturing plant, so what did Achieve do? They got ahead of it. They teamed up with a US-based manufacturer, Adair Pharmaceuticals, to basically de-risk their supply chains and make sure they're ready to go. Their whole commercial plan really comes down to 3 key things. First, availability. You gotta be able to make it and get it on shelves. We just covered that. Second, access. It has to be affordable, which means getting insurance companies on board. And third, awareness. This is about educating everyone, patients and doctors, and changing that whole conversation. And they are going right after that awareness piece with a super direct, kind of provocative campaign they're calling Willpower. The whole point is to make people stop and think, wait,
Is quitting really just about gritting your teeth? It's designed to challenge that whole outdated notion head on.
But wait, the story here isn't just about cigarettes. Achieve is also looking at the next big frontier in nicotine addiction, vaping. So you've got these 18 million adults who vape. And get this, more than half of them say they want to quit. But here's the kicker. Right now, there are exactly zero FDA-approved treatments specifically to help people quit vaping. That is a huge, gaping hole in the market. And the FDA gets how urgent this is. They actually gave cytisinicline one of these special priority review vouchers for its potential in vaping cessation. And let me tell you, that is a huge deal. It's basically the FDA saying, yes, this is a national crisis and we need solutions fast. It puts them on a much faster track for review, and they could end up being the very first approved treatment out there. All right, so you've got these two huge potential catalysts, smoking and vaping. So what's next on the to-do list for Achieve? Let's look at the timeline. In the first half of 2026, they're getting their big Phase 3 vaping trial underway. Then comes the big one, June 20, 2026. That's the FDA decision day for smoking cessation. And if they get the green light, they're aiming to launch in the US in the first half of 2027. And just to give you a little context on the money side of things, the company has about $36.4 million in cash. And that's the war chest they're using to fund the push to hit all these milestones and get ready for that big potential launch. So all of this brings us right back to where we started. You know, the story of Achieve Life Sciences isn't really just about a new pill. It's about a new way of seeing things. We've seen it happen in other areas of health. When a real, effective medical treatment comes along, it doesn't just save lives. It can totally change how we as a society understand and talk about a disease. So the question is, could this pill finally be the thing that makes us see nicotine dependence not as a failure of willpower, but as a medical condition that we can and absolutely should treat?